This episode of Blues Moments in Time includes historical discussion of racism and systemic injustice in the United States and may include the names and stories of people who are no longer with us. We approach these topics in a factual, educational context, but listener discretion is advised.
From the Blues Hotel Collective, welcome to Blues Moments in Time, where every groove holds a memory and every moment echoes the truth of what came before. Today, we rewind the reel, trace the footsteps, and revisit the chapters that shaped the blues. Here is our host, Kelvin Huggins.
On today's episode of Blues Moments in Time, a president borrows a freedom song and shakes the walls of Congress. Ray Charles draws a line between the old world of R&B and the new world of soul. And we celebrate two birthdays, a barefoot Texas country bluesman who played like nobody before or since, and a Los Angeles slide guitar visionary who treated American roots music like his personal archive. I'm Kelvin Huggins, and this is March 15 in blues history. We begin with the cultural landscape. People say the blues is political, not because every song is a protest, but because the music was always a mirror of the world its makers lived in. It came from cotton fields and juke joints, from prison farms and northern tenements. It came from people barred from voting, from owning land, from sitting in the same train car as a white passenger. By 1965, that world was cracking open, and the music that had been documenting it for decades, blues, gospel, freedom songs, had finally reached the floor of Congress. Which brings us to the political moment. March 15, 1965, just over a week after Bloody Sunday in Selma, when marchers were beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge as the nation watched, President Lyndon B. Johnson addressed a joint session of Congress. He called it the American Promise. History remembers it as the "We Shall Overcome" speech. Johnson told Congress their cause must be our cause too, and we shall overcome. Those four words, the anthem of the civil rights movement, had never been spoken by a sitting president on national television. Congress interrupted him with applause roughly 40 times. Within a day, the White House received more than 1,400 telegrams of support. The speech set in motion the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which finally tore down the literacy tests, poll taxes, and bureaucratic walls that had kept black Americans from the ballot box. For every blues artist who had ever sung about the weight of the segregated South, this was the political reckoning their music had been pointing toward. And speaking of reckoning, let's talk about the music. March 15, 1955, 10 years before LBJ's speech, Ray Charles was sitting atop the R&B charts with a record that changed everything, I've Got a Woman. Recorded in a cramped Atlanta radio station, the song was built on a gospel melody Charles and his band heard on the radio. He kept the gospel fire, but wrote new secular lyrics over it. The result was explosive. A gospel chord progression driving an R&B song, a brass section with a Latin riff, and Charles's voice. Raw, ecstatic, unrestrained. Some church communities were outraged, but the controversy only pushed the record further. It hit number one and opened the door to what we now call soul music. Now, this date also marks two remarkable birthdays. March 15, 1912, Centerville, Texas, Sam Hopkins is born. His father was killed when Sam was a child. His grandfather, family law says, took his own life to escape the brutality of slavery. Hopkins grew up in that shadow and turned it into music. By 8, he built a cigar box guitar. By 10, he was playing with his cousin, Texas Alexander, and with blind Lemon Jefferson, who almost never let anyone sit in. He let young Sam. Hopkins rode trains, gambled, played anywhere someone would listen. He served time on a prison farm, and in 1946, in Houston, he cut his first real session with pianist Wilson Thunder Smith the moment Lightnin Hopkins was born. He became one of the most prolific solo blues artists of the century, recording hundreds upon hundreds of songs. His style was unmistakable: bass, rhythm, lead, and percussion all at once. His voice floating over a 12-bar form he bent to his will. Lightnin might not change on time, one musician said, but he was always his own man. And 35 years later, March 15, 1947, Ryland Ry Cooder was born in Los Angeles. On paper, he and Hopkins couldn't have been more different, but both worshipped at the same altar. Cooder lost sight in one eye as a child and retreated into music. By 12, he was digging through record store bins, guided by a local mailman toward Skip James, Reverend Gary Davis, Leadbelly, Blind Blake. He wasn't chasing a career, he was chasing origins. That instinct shaped everything, forming the Rising Suns with Taj Mahal, playing slide on the Rolling Stones' Let It Bleed, introducing Keith Richards to open G tuning, producing the Buena Vista Social Club. Cooder treats the blues as a living conversation, one that can travel from Texas to Mali to Havana and still speak the same truth. From our sources, March 15 holds no record of the passing of any blues musicians. But in African American culture, remembrance isn't tied to a date on the calendar. It's tied to the people who carried the music forward, the ancestors whose names we know, and the countless ones that we don't. In the Black South, memory has always been an act of survival. Families kept stories alive through front porch talk, through church hymns, through the blues itself. Even when the world didn't write their names down, the music did. So on this day, with no recorded passings, we honour all those unrecorded lives. The players who never made a record, the singers who never left the juke joint, the elders whose voices shaped the sound long before microphones ever did. So here's the rough line on this particular March 15. You've got a boy born in poverty in East Texas who made his guitar do things nobody else could imagine. You've got a president borrowing the language of protest songs to demand that every citizen be allowed to vote. You've got Ray Charles taking a gospel melody and making it secular, making it human, making it the future. Different lives, different eras, different rooms, but the same insistence on being heard, the same refusal to be erased. That's the blues. That's what this music has always been about. And that's all for today's episode of Blues Moments in Time. Join us next time as we continue to explore the remarkable history of the blues.